Hey, what's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to be going over some cool facts about some animals that are often feared for no apparent reason at all. We're talking bats here. A lot of people have these weird superstitions and all kinds of just like bad things to say about them when a lot of that information is actually very, very wrong. So we're going to go over some facts today to kind of kick out that fear and get you to understand how beautiful and helpful these creatures really are to our environment, to people and everything, our food sources. So here we go. We're going to just kind of dive straight into this. Did you know that there is over 1,300 species of bats in total across the entire world? The only places they don't live are very, very remote, isolated islands way out in the middle of nowhere of the ocean and the Arctic and Antarctic. And out of those 1,300 plus bats, only 3 of them feed on human blood. And out of those 3, 2 of them don't even like human blood. So, I mean, unless you live in South, Central, or Latin America, the only one you have to fear is the one vampire bat. And most of those, they don't even go for humans or even dogs. They just go for, mules, donkeys, horses, cattle, that kind of stuff. And even then, they attack the ankles or the ears. The easiest targets to hit on an animal like that. So, I mean, unless there's just no cattle around, I wouldn't even be scared of them, honestly. And out of 70% of those 1,300 bats, 1,300 animals, 70% of them just eat bugs, crickets, moths, mosquitoes, grasshoppers, all that stuff. The rest of them usually just eat fruit, which contributes to pollination and stuff like that, which we'll get into a little later. 1 in every 4 mammals, meaning animals that give live birth instead of lay eggs, except for a few exceptions, is a mammal. Now, every one in every 4 of those mammals is a bat. Like, an example, humans, dogs, cats, whales, not sharks actually. Sharks are animals, fish. So not sharks, but, whales, dolphins, humans, dogs, cats, bats. Any animal that gives live birth, except for the great white shark. Those give live birth, but those are fish. Anyways, so, to keep going, to get myself back on track here, bats are the only flying mammal. On top of that, birds are not mammals. Birds are birds. Those are animals. Bats are mammals, and they're the only ones in the entire mammal kingdom that can fly. Now, to get into your whole rabies fear, this is really going to be interesting to you, I bet. Did you know that less than a half of 1% of bats contract rabies? That's 0.5% of 1,300 species of bats, and hundreds of billions of bats that fly around. You get less than a half of 1%. That's 0.5% or lower that actually contract rabies. And another one of your silly little things that you guys like to say is, blind as a bat? You ever heard of that? I'm sure you have. That's actually vastly incorrect. Bats can see a lot better than a human can in the daytime. Bats also use this special thing at night called echolocation. It's kind of like sound vision. What happens is these animals spit out a sound and the waves crash into something and bounce back of the object into the animal's ears, and it paints this black and silver picture. It's kind of like a flash, kind of like flash camera. And they can do this on and on and on, and it kind of creates like a strobe light vision. It's kind of neat. It's like a strobe light going off. You know how, like, you got a strobe light going on in a dark room, and you got all these like books and shelves and whatnot going around. You got some people in there dancing, and how they just like kind of like stop motion move. That's almost exactly what it's like. Check this out. A bat's brain can pick up these sound visions in a millionth of a second. Keep in mind that human brains only function at 1,000th of a second. Isn't that something neat? And with this echolocation, or sonar, as it's also called, bats can see things thinner than a human hair, which is actually really neat. And sonar on a ship or a submarine, to check out whether there's mines, torpedoes coming at them, stuff like that, that's actually based off of a bat's echolocation or sonar. And check this out. The reason why you don't hear so much noise and all of this noise, and the only reason why you hear these squeaks, is because the squeaks are their communication. The bat's frequency of this sonar is actually way higher than the human range can pick up. The human range of sound that your ears can pick up. Its highest peak is 20,000 kilohertz. These bats spit out these picture painter sounds, picture painter sounds, at 50,000, so that's 2.5 times higher than you can actually hear. So the only sounds you're hearing are them communicating, kind of like, whales, dolphins, humans talking like I am right now to you guys through this video. That's bats doing the exact same thing. So bats are actually closer related to monkeys, primates, people than they are to like rats or something. So saying they're rodents with wings is highly, incredibly wrong. And if you guys live in America, here's a treat for you. North America alone houses over 40 species out of these 1,300s. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is. So bats have a scientific family that they are delved into. They're called Chiroptera. Chiroptera is kind of a cool word. Say it with me. Chiroptera. 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 And in Greek, that actually translates out to hand wing. And why that is so interesting is because a bat's wing isn't just like a little stump and then a whole bunch of skin and feathers or whatnot. Bats' wings are actually consisted of a whole arm, an elbow, a wrist, and 5 fingers. Pretty cool. So, how that works is, let's look at it here. So, you've got his arm, his elbow, the rest of his arm, and here's his thumb up here, here's his wrist connected right here, that's one of his fingers, that's another one right here, and then so on. Bats have 5 fingers just like you and me. It's kind of neat. I didn't know if y'all knew that. I actually learned that recently. I'm pretty surprised. Now, the bats that eat fruits, like I was saying, really help with pollination of fruits and plants. They feed on the nectar, and then they go, kind of like a bee. They go from plant to plant to plant, just carrying this nectar and pollen, and pollinating all of these plants. And also, if you guys drink tequila, you have bats to thank for that, because they, a lot of them like to feed on agave, which is the direct fruit plant that tequila is born from. Just a little FYI for you drinkers out there. Kind of fancy. So, we have that. Did you know that a colony of 20 million bats, which we actually have here near San Antonio, Texas. If you live out there, this is a place it's called Bracken Cave. Really cool thing to see. If you're into bats, that is. If not, go check it out, learn some about it, and just get caught up on such an amazing occurrence of nature. So a colony of these 20 million bats can actually eat 250,000 pounds of bugs in one night. Holy shit, that's a lot of bugs. 250,000 pounds of bugs in one night. That's it. Like, holy shit, that's a lot of bugs. Like, what? And here's something cool for you. One bat can actually eat 600 bugs in just 1 hour. And they can eat so many times more than their weight. And most bats really range from like a weight of like a dime, like, the American currency, little dime, about that big, to 2 quarters. Those are your microbats. The megabats can actually weigh kind of a lot. Now you got 2 different kinds of bats. You got the megabats and the microbats. There's not very many megabats. A lot of those consist of like flying foxes and stuff like that. Those are actually bats. The 6 feet long wingspan. But those usually, those do only eat fruit, so they don't attack people at all. They just munch on their mangoes and go to sleep, pretty much. The other bats are the ones that are like maybe yay big, like that wide, stuff like that. Like the Mexican free-tailed, Brazilian free-tail, stuff like that. Those are your microbats. And microbats can eat 600 bugs in just 1 hour. So if you live here, anywhere really in America, you're dealing with a bunch of different kinds of microbats. Mexican free-tailed, Brazilian free-tailed, those are some of my favorites. Pallid bats, possibly. I'm not for sure on that one, don't quote me on that. But, so yeah, shitload of bugs in just 1 hour. And that's one animal, too. They can eat a lot more times their weight than usual. Also, check this out. A few species of bats also eat fish, frogs, birds, and they even eat mice. The things that people think they're so much alike to, they eat them. So, there's that for you. This is also kind of neat too. Did you guys know that the vampire bats actually will adopt other vampire bats? They will take orphan vampire bats and they will just let them hang out with them in their colony hunting group, stuff like that. Kind of neat. I think that's really interesting. And bats actually only give birth to really one baby a year. I mean, sometimes it's known to have like twins, triplets, quadruplets, even pentuplets sometimes, which is 5 babies, by the way. 5 babies all at once. So if you think it's bad you're a twin, imagine having 5 of you running around. And here's another thing. 500 of those little babies can fit into 1 square foot. That's literally a square that's 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, 1 foot. I mean, that's not the actual size. It's me just giving you a demonstration of how it works. So yeah, there's some peculiarly interesting bat facts for you, and hopefully you guys have gone through this little journey with me and kind of learned a little more about them and started kind of stopping fear of them. I have a challenge for you guys. If you guys don't like bats or you're scared of them, go and Google bats. Just look at them up close, and you'll see that they actually really look really cute. They're pretty awesome looking. I love them, at least. Here soon I'm going to be starting volunteer work with specific organizations, like helping feed ones that are injured, or going out and like timing how long they fly from when they come out to when they end, stuff like that. I'm going to be doing all kinds of help with research and stuff like that, feeding the injured animals that are in captivity to help them come back and be able to be released back into the wild. It's kind of like the the rescue reserve zoos that just capture their animals that are injured and then release them when they're back to full health. That's what I'm going to be doing. So, well, thanks for watching, guys, and y'all have a great rest of your day or evening, whenever y'all are watching this. Thanks. Peace out.